Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, a very special edition, as two of us are in Germany now. Terre.
And one of us wants to be somewhere else, yeah.
I think we all want to be someplace else, don't we?
There are times when it is more true than others, but anyhow, there are always opportunities when one wants to be with some special people or at a really exhilarating, fantastic, nice place. So today you have chosen the right place to be. And yes, as you have seen, we are simply without a defined guest today, as we thought that what we had on input from our former colleague or former guest, Jeuss Hoyos, we had the interesting aspects on some of the mid-market challenges or small and medium enterprise challenges, and we would like to continue the thought exchange between us as observers. Us as observers is the first starting point, such as if one reminds himself in looking through these so-called duty lists or Pflichtenhefte or the opportunity lists and all that stuff in paper or in some vibrating Excel sheets, what customers would like to see in their solution, then one is asking himself, such as I would like to place this towards Thomas, does a mid-market organization or a small organization have so different requirements of a larger enterprise or a dedicated department than a smaller organization?
That was to you, Thomas.
Yeah, there is no other Thomas, but if he wants to be muted or still is muting himself, I'm afraid
As I heard only about 20% of what you said, I didn't even hear that you were talking to me.
So
you better address Marshall, and I am silent today.
Oh, good. Technical difficulties.
No, it's not technical difficulties. It is infrastructural difficulties. I am in
And that's technology.
Banana Republic, Germany.
As we have had that, for instance, as I was in Berlin, when we had the first meeting with Marshall, if you recall last year, what I wanted to phrase up is the challenge an organization has, a large enterprise, a medium enterprise, a small enterprise. So Marshall, as we follow the idea of Thomas to give him an opportunity in jumping in when he is able to listen to what we are saying, do you see there are differentiations between the needs of larger, medium, and smaller organizations?
Well, there would have to be. When we, at the very, very basic level, every business needs certain things together. You've got to be able to know who your customers are and know what they want. That's basic. But once you get past that, the way in which businesses of a given size operate is going to be different. You take your, Tante Emma, your mom and pop shop, as you know, a smaller business is not likely to have a budget for this particular type of technology or this part of how they operate. There isn't a sales budget. There isn't a service budget. There isn't a technology budget. necessarily. The smaller a company gets, the more likely it is to just have a budget, and it's got to cover everything, and you can't be too over specialized. Smaller businesses benefit more from general solutions. Larger businesses, well, they have the issue that if they are that big, they've got more customers. I'm obviously oversimplifying because I wasn't prepared to discuss this, but yeah, larger businesses, if they have a larger constituency, they can be much more worried about a shift of a much smaller percentage in their total customers.
Yeah.
So they can focus more on specialized solutions to get that percentage. So given that, plus the fact they're likely to have a larger budget, they can have specialized, yeah, we can hope, they can have a specialized tool to deal with a particular part of their sales cycle, or a particular tool for reading marketing results out of a particular channel or what have you. But the way a large enterprise and a small business go at it is almost unrecognizable between one another most of the time, I think.
That is the perspective, for instance, one of our upcoming guests who is specialized in open source, our dear friend Christian Knoll, took as a perspective as well. And as Thomas unmuted himself, I guess he's loving to contribute his perspective of that requirements could be quite similar. He is still quiet. So that is a perspective he has taken and given us as a hint in the chat, such as
apparently the difference is, according to Thomas, that large businesses have more money. Thank you. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, well,
Thomas says the requirements are essentially the same,
yeah,
and one should not differentiate between SMB and large business, but by the complexity of their implemented and required processes. This is more correct than what I said. I was being more general, but Thomas is more insightful in this, and I will bow to his wisdom.
Don't do a rollback. It is more that if you take the customer's perspective, I think you have taken the customer's perspective, such as I'm the mom and pop shop. I have general requirements. I want something affordable, but it should cover as much as possible. And Thomas, if he is in larger projects where he is doing not only consultancy, but also the, let's say, implementation of these solutions and processes, that he has there a clear perspective of how complex an organization can design their requirements and their processes, till somebody drops by and says, guys, girls, that could be done smoother and more easy. Yeah, let me give you a hint. Yeah. So processes, requirements, challenges are, to a certain perspective, I would say, whoops, I'm learning through LinkedIn another.
I think Thomas is going to try and get his audio from another source.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, well, we have had that challenge when I was in Berlin, and you remember, Marshall, you joined in, and we had some challenges that the complexity of the German infrastructure over the complete landscape is quite differentiating, such as it's between 0 and let's say 25. And they are hardworking to get it at least to 50% or somehow 75. Moment. Yeah, I'm in as a host. Yes.
Yeah, but expanding on what Thomas wrote to us and I read to our audience, complexity is definitely something where larger and smaller businesses are going to differentiate. A larger business, they can afford to be complex. A smaller business, if they're spending all of their time on details and highly complex processes, they're just not going to have the mental bandwidth, if you will, or the time to serve as many customers as they need to, or to serve them as well as they can. Size allows complexity. It's been the way things have been as long as we've been civilized. The first civilizations happened because we could specialize farming, defense, management. Everyone had a job, as opposed to like hunter-gatherers, where you're either looking for food, killing food, preparing food, or taking care of children who would grow up to go and kill the food for the next generation. Again, I'm oversimplifying, but it has been with us for as long as we've been people. And the more resources you have, the more you can specialize.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to see that from the perspective of the different sizes of organizations and their, let's say, built-in complexity, their ability to invest in complex solutions is differentiating and different as well, such as the general observation we have over the years, and especially during the Corona pandemic, and as we were ramping up our show and have a lot of guests which are giving their perspectives on the requirements, the needs, what they like to see, and how important in the different size business empathy is as a turnkey aspect in doing business between humans, that we see that one requirement, independently how large you are in the organizational perspective and how much money you have from the money perspective, things should be done and given to you to make your life more easy, such as give me an easy to handle solution. Aside of nodding, what is another perspective you see there, Marshall, which underlays or gives some bread and butter to that observation?
Well, it is the advantage of the technology that we have now. The vendors have said that you can have the complexity or the quality of a large business and its processes for your small business. And to some extent, that has become true. Using modern cloud solutions, low code, no code software that you can use to create your own apps, that sort of thing, you can have a greater degree of complexity and arguably a better quality of service than ever before. The fact is, the larger businesses are still, in my opinion, going to do it better because they've still got people that they can dedicate to the job. That said, you want to provide the best for your customers that you can, and offloading the complexity to a software developer so that you can just use what looks to you as a simple tool it's a great advantage to have. Best example, or at least good example that I can think of is Creatio, who just had their event here in Chicago. They do what is called no-code days. These are mostly customer-focused events showcasing what can be done with business process management using low-code and no-code solutions and development. And, well, to be honest, Creatio is one of the best at that. They simplify things and enable users to simplify them quite well. That said, something developed for simplicity and having the complexity offloaded is probably not going to be as super capable as some high-end Oracle SAP monster system. But only a few businesses need that monster system.
Good observation.
Thank you.
There we are in the middle of an interesting discussion, such as the Power Platform, the Microsoft end, Zoho's creator scenario, and some others do also hype the low-code, no-code ability and built-in features that they give you, if you have the right license, all the tools to do citizen development, or how this is called in good old Germany or in good old America. The citizens development is more a movement which is coming from your end, and is another wording for it is so simple that every citizen can do some programming and gets the creator of his own environment to a certain dedication if he knows what he needs. Yeah.
Yes.
That is always useful. Yeah. Otherwise, you buy a Mercedes and just wanted to have a motorcycle.
Yeah, that is one of the good things now. Buying software isn't just buying a capability, it's buying the ability to create your own environment. You're not just buying a software to do a thing. You're buying software to let you figure out how to do things yourself. In a way, it's a throwback to the early days of software, where if you had a computer, you had to write your own software. And this is before me. I'm not that old that I remember having to write my own stuff. But now it's back in a sense. If the system that you're using doesn't have the workflow that you want it to, you can build your own. And companies, again, like Creatio, they're the ones who are on my mind because they were just here, but there are others. They're making that possible, making it easy. And that is something that should not be overlooked. You don't have to buy high-powered, expensive business software when you only need to design a few workflows that manage it for you.
So just taking up Thomas' questions from the audience area, which organizations, companies would need the monster system? What's your perspective on that, Marshall?
That's for global companies. That's for companies with very diverse product and service lines, holding companies that manage multiple brands under their umbrella. And those companies are out there. They exist. Name any major logo that you can think of. Nike is going to need something like that. For groceries, a company like Kroger is going to need something like that. Or Beatrice. Does Beatrice still exist? Yeah, they probably do. And to some extent, businesses that have already invested in big technology are going to find it hard to cut back.
Yeah.
Even if you could run BMW or GM or an auto company of that magnitude on simple business software, nobody would suggest doing it because it is so counterintuitive to what you expect. It would be a great way to lose your job. Even if it would work, suggesting it would get you thrown out.
Yeah.
It's only until someone does it and makes it work that an industry would follow along and go, hey, those guys manage it. Why can't we?
It's such as that flying animal which looks in between a hornet and a bee, which is supposed to be set by the rules and the physics of aerodynamics. It cannot fly. But the Hummel, it's the one I was quoting, doesn't know. He's flying. Yeah.
True.
Speed to value is a very good point. And I believe that independently of the size of an organization, if there is at the different ends pain, you need to cure that pain and get down to the root. Such as if you see a lot of organizations are trying to organize themselves between apps. I just found recently an organization is utilizing bespoke software, which is not old, but their structure in thinking is old, such as the look and feel is out of the 80s, the structured thinking is out of the 90s. So they are in a real challenge to come to today. Yeah, they have a gap of 40 years if it's come to a bad end. Yeah, and some of their technology is simply said by the best of breed. They thought they could deliver. They use some stuff from Google, some apps from app stores, some Excel workarounds and collecting data and all that. This is a real interesting perspective if we dig in, such as, okay, someone has a flea circus and he is organizing that flea circus in some new work around individually programmed stuff. Yeah? That could be a step forward if you then get it into one better to handle one solution. But then probably to get this all programmed in, you need to Bumblebee. Thank you. Then now I know it. The Bumblebee. Yes, the microphone you are using is a Bumblebee. I recall.
Bumblebee.
Now, Niels Kroger, Nike, Entschuldigung, sorry. Krager. I don't know Krager. Can you help me out? What is Krager?
Oh, Kroger. It's
Kroger, sorry.
It is a national grocery store brand in the U.S. They have a number of different chains that they supply.
Yeah.
They come to mind because they're everywhere here in the Midwest of the United States. You walk into a store, whatever the name is on the front, there's a very good chance that Kroger goods are supplying that store.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I was asking, due to the last 102 episodes, as we have mentionings of who is supporting 7-Eleven, the rock around the clock shop. That is for me a typical situation that you want to have something in between, open when I need it, get supply when it's mandatory, get nearly everything I need, from pharmaceuticals, so pain relievers, till new socks, even a cheap pair of shoes, yeah, the food, drinks, so what's regularly needed. But it's, if I recall it right, it's a bit higher in price, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. The interesting thing with a store like a 7-Eleven
Yeah.
is, on the surface of it, when you walk in there, it would be similar to any other corner grocery and convenience store
Yeah.
that you might have, that anyone could open and run. But because it is a national chain with a well-known brand and certain standards of quality and process that go through all of them, they need that greater degree of complexity in their business processes to do how it is they do. A one-off store down on the corner can just handle their supply and their accounts payable and their accounts receivable and all of those things for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the 7-Eleven franchise, it's a franchise. It is responsible not only to itself and its customers, but to its corporate boss. So it has to account for supply not only of itself, but as part of the regional whole. And you may have more issues with staffing, depending on how they have that arranged. It gets more complicated. So, yeah, they charge a little bit more.
So we have the perspective, do something individual, fitting your needs. Is it a conglomerate of apps or something individually programmed as bespoke software? We have the low-code, no-code perspective, which is for me also adding either in an easy way of making some bespoke software, or getting a connecting link between the loose ends. Yeah. So taking up that perspective, such as, it's my favorite construction product, Lego from Denmark. If we take the little bricks and get it together and build something which is fitting the needs, that could be one-to-one customized, or could be mass customized, such as if I go within such a convenience store food chain or everything covering chain, everything's under one roof. That is also a perspective of how one can do business and how one can build software, such as I connect the bridge, the pieces I need to do my job. Getting back, that is like Lego. Lego is the platform idea, because on a solid foundation plate or on a thinner foundation plate, you place your little buildings or your pieces which you connect to something new. Now, that idea is innovative, breathtaking, and the real power of thunder, such as, if I recall the claim of one of our guests, let the platform do the work, such as they would like to have a platform which is giving you all the benefits under one roof, such as we see in the large player Microsoft, who has for all the challenges some bits and pieces. We find it in Zoho and to a certain degree in Freshworks. And some of the other impressive names with the blue cloud and some 3 letters in blue, they miss, let's say, the normal day-to-day stuff which everybody needs, such as the office part. And this is striking me. If you compare, for instance, Freshworks versus Zoho, you find not only the one on the one end, they did everything themselves, and the others started buying external stuff to get it into their suite. Those which did everything by themselves did also the office side of things. A text editor, calculation, something for presentations.
Right. What they call productivity apps, I think.
Productivity apps, thank you. Yeah. Even that they are probably different in how to use and the resemblance of some other low budget or even for free solutions to do the productivity stuff, like the open source suites, which are quite known, LibreOffice or OpenOffice. Yeah. There is a third one in row, which I fiddled around a bit, but it didn't won my heart. I see that the conjunction and working together in the Zoho universe is quite unique. It is more than what under normal circumstances one is expecting from the Microsoft ecosystem and universe. What's your take on that?
I actually was going to go back to your Lego analogy.
Oh, okay.
If I may.
Feel free.
Yeah. It was when we, and of course I'm leveraging the fact that we're all old people here, but when we had Lego as children, we just got a bucket full of bricks.
Yeah.
And built things. That was the platform. That was how software was built too. Today, if you go out and buy Lego, you're not really buying a bucket of bricks. You're buying a specific project.
Hey, genau, yeah.
Yeah, you see, you're buying a box to build this airplane or this building, and they have some specialized pieces in it that you really couldn't do that design without. The best example of this is all of the Star Wars Lego stuff.
It just came to my mind. Yeah.
Where, you have someone building the Death Star, which is 3 feet across.
Yeah.
It has a bunch of specially curved pieces and the big super laser dish and all of those things, which you couldn't do with regular Lego bricks. And even if you wanted to substitute regular Lego in there and it fits, it'll still be obvious that that didn't come from the original set. I think that's a little closer to where we are today, where you're still buying a solution, but you're able to customize it better.
And with less pain, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. And if you don't step on the Lego bricks. Less
Very vivid picture coming to my mind. Yeah. Very vivid and painful, to be honest. Yeah. moving in the night, going for the loo, and just walking through the kids' room and stepping over a lot of Lego.
Yeah, probably the best burglar alarm money can buy. Just scatter them in front of your door. But back to your point of Microsoft style and Zoho and Freshworks. Yeah, it does. The way that they started their businesses does show in their current product lines. I like the analogy that you make of Microsoft and Zoho together, looking similar after, broadly similar.
Yeah.
After decades of development, where they're creating their own solutions on the inside and growing outwards. Granted, Microsoft also acquired how many companies over the years? But for the most part, a Microsoft product looks like a Microsoft product, and it operates like a Microsoft product. And anything that gets brought into that family is going to become more like that. Zoho has built its own apps from the ground up for the past, how long have they been operating? 25, 30 years?
25 at least. It's going to 27, or you will know better if you go for the celebration party in July, because one of the heading topics is at least 25 years or so. But there are others in the market, such as two players from Germany, which both are 35 years in the market, CAS and Cobra CRM, for instance, mentioning those, or Combit or Smart CRM, which did their stuff for over 30 years. Yeah. And seeing how the look and feel is, if they are in modern development environments, such as CAS does have products in something like .NET frameworks, such as is Cobra, or you see that they adopt to Lightning user interfaces, like some open source products like Spice. Yeah. Spice CRM, for instance, is combining and utilizing a lot of what is on the market in the open source environment available, and is focusing on the customer experience part, whereas Odoo is giving the best of both worlds, CRM and ERP and accounting and all that. So that's the other way, where you see that the open source in one end and the closed source on the other end are not too different, but their pricing and delivery model and the servicing model is the key differentiator. No? But it's not that an open source solution must be cheaper. One of the findings from the chaps in Odoo is they do have a licensing policy. They do have a licensing policy for their add-ons, such as some parts are for free, some parts are freemium. Yeah, you want to have that, you pay a little. Or that they said we are very open, and Odoo is also claiming to do low code, no code. So they have a large partner community which is there on its way. But at a certain end, you have to go, if you want to get legal signage for accounting software, you have to have the right stamps on it, and you have a solid foundation. So you cannot leave this to hobby developers or citizen developers, because as long as they don't get blamed by a law or a court that they have done not the proper fiscal assumptions and gave the money to whom it is, it is important, that it is in a proper framework. Stepping back for Zoho, I found it very compelling that aside of some very nasty local challenges, such as the accounting program is not properly working in Germany because it's not following the German financial rules. But in a lot of other countries, it's absolutely sufficient. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have not had the really challenging and fantastic approach in the days 2007 to 2010, when Microsoft has its SMB product in conjunction with Office and the Business Contact Manager. They had also an accounting tool which you could buy in Great Britain. And in the UK, you had a solution up to 25 people, which was a full bloom setup for small and medium organizations, also with industry templates. I found this so fascinating that the ones who did developers nearly got shot, such as he was cannibalizing the NAV, the Vision or Exapta business in that area, and going upside or getting upsales was then to a certain degree a bit complicated, such as the migration paths between, if you have learned to utilize and love your business contact manager, it was only from the look and feel a little step to go for Microsoft CRM. But then you at a sudden found out that the business contact manager, which was just in the Office environment, was truly compelling connected and one out of it and one look and feel, whereas the matching together with the Microsoft CRM at that time was, well, it sometimes worked. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was not as easy. Now, Thomas had some observations, such as Ora. Who is Ora? Na gut, also Salesforce has the productivity suite too. Well, I miss the Office parts in Salesforce. In the early days, 2007, when they were introducing their marketplace as one of the first ones, their App Exchange, they had a very close relationship to Google, but this has drifted a bit apart. Then, if you want to have at that time the comparison between Microsoft and Salesforce, that was clearly that Mark stood on the ramp and on the floor and said, "Yeah, guys, now I have Office Suite at your hand, so you can use Salesforce together with an Office Suite. It's not from Microsoft, it's from Google. You'll love it. Yeah, and it's for free." That was a messaging which came strong.
People do love free.
Absolutely. Yeah, you are right. AdNet, focusing on network management. That was the foundation of Zoho 1969.
96.
96. Yeah, well, numbers chase me. But what the heck is Aura? Would you recall what Aura is? What Thomas mentioned. Salesforce has the productivity suite too. Now I have to click on that one. The master is not there. Then here we go. That is the one I wanted to show. Have the productivity suite too. Probably Aura is one of the managers who said one day we had it and now we got lost it. Oh, we have lost it.
Yeah, it's aura.pm. Appears to be, what would I call it? Good word for it. Task management, productivity, business software kind of thing.
Ach, er meinte das Orakel. Okay, yes, you're absolutely right, because they had their feet on the street with the open office community. They supported heavily the open office community and had it as one of the combined products, and were sponsoring it through their foundation. And they were strongly together with IBM in their times. They delivered the software and it ran on IBM, and IBM has not that stack of software which Oracle had at that time. That's quite compelling. Now, back to our friends from Zoho. After I remembered how to show our visitors comments, it's very clear to see how long Zoho is looking for customers' benefits. And I like that is very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Well, something that I think we should probably mention while we're talking about small and medium businesses is who is really supplying software for small and medium businesses. We've just mentioned in this show, we've mentioned Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
They're not an SMB company. As wonderful as what they do.
Little brother or sister, or what you would call it, they have bought NetApp.
Oh yeah, NetSuite
NetSuite,
is an ERP product, and while yes, they're arguably better for smaller companies than the full-blown Oracle stack is, NetSuite is still a pretty serious piece of software. It's not something you get cheap. When I think SMB, I think cost effective has to be very important. Like I was talking about at the top of the show, their budget is all in. They can't afford to explore software for this one job or for this one part of the company. If they're going to do it, they're going to get something that solves as many problems as possible. And they need to do that cheaply. Salesforce used to do that. One of the things that made Salesforce so successful was that it served small and medium businesses very effectively and at a reasonable price point 20 years ago. And I'm not saying this to call out Salesforce specifically. Just about every vendor that has had a foot in the SMB end of the market has crept further and further up to mid-market and then to larger enterprises over time. Some of them were always there. I mean, Oracle was not something that you were going to run a grocery store with. But now who's left? Zoho. Zoho is still price appropriate for smaller businesses.
Yeah.
Microsoft, I'm honestly not sure what's available in that price range because I'm so used to looking at the full Dynamics package and thinking of it in terms of
honestly
organization.
Or as the typical mom and pop shop, and you do not you simply go for the office plans. So you do not buy it as per person the box, but you buy a subscription plan, and you have for the families those which is for, depending on when you buy it. If you buy it on a Black Friday, you pay something around $50 for a year's use, or 150 if you want it a bit more sexy. But that is in the perspective. If Quip, to mention that Salesforce has its bits and pieces in their conglomerate where they are not so famous for, dear Thomas, that I honestly did not have it on my radar that with Quip somehow you can collaborate as you do it with Google. But if I collect all the products in the market, I would have missed Quip because it doesn't ring a bell. That is some of a former competitor of the Google Workspace and the Office family or something, which is one of these productivity tools. And I'm not sure if they deliver it for free if you buy a basic Salesforce Essentials or something like that. Yeah.
It's not possible to remember all of the vendors.
No, it's simply, if you look, because you mentioned that how many companies have been bought, I stopped counting at 60 in the row by Salesforce. So 20 years of growth means 60 trade-ins. Salesforce is, to me, to a certain extent, after they left the path of organic growth, but buying stuff together and all that, that it became a bit more like the Borg. You can think about the Borg what you like. The Queen of the Borgs in the Picard episodes is not as bad and mad as we learned it in former seasons. But for me, it is very important that getting some stuff together needs to give your customers still the look and feel that is out of one make and under one umbrella, and that you're not hopping around 60 different applications and ask yourself, fuck, why is the button over there and on the others it's over there? Yeah, this is the harmonization, which I think to a certain perspective, when I did no further analyze this, Salesforce did very nicely, because such as the positive side of the Borg is they make it easy to get around, and you know where you have to push your mouse clicks and you get your results. Whereas in some of the other products, especially when I look into the office productivity tools from Zoho, I get sometimes mistaken because in the writer, the button I use for some jobs is at another end as in the presentation tool. But this might come with the next release and it's sorted. But this is something which I observe, convenience, usability, ease of use, which is important, and especially important if you pay more than as you pay in a free product. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to pay the money, you should get something for it, right? That's only reasonable. But I agree with you completely that there needs to be some unity in the software there. Having everything look like it works together is important for you to make it work together. Hunting for the right button is never a good way to work. And as much as we love Zoho, I don't care for their productivity product that much. Their writer product, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to use Word or to use Google Docs. Not that there's anything wrong with Zoho. It's just, it's different. And for the past 30 years or so, we've been using word processors, writing programs that look a particular way. You know, there are all variations on a theme. This one's different, so we're automatically uncomfortable with it. But
Take a different perspective. I'm absolutely agree. I'm with you. And I use at least 3 or 4 suites side by side. I work with people which use Google, the universe of Google. I do not work with people together which use Quip. I have to hit on that button a little more, as our favorite audience is mentioning that Quip was acquired in 2016. Yeah, if somebody would have sponsored me in Salesforce from that time till today, I would definitely recall, absolutely sure. But nobody sponsored me, so too bad. Yeah. Whereas Microsoft and some others helped me to remember positively what they all did in the market. Yeah. Coming back to that comparison, if you see you have only $50 per person and you get an all-in-one product, and you go then for Zoho and go, for instance, for out of 48 products for the price I just mentioned for each of your users, and you have 5 users in the company, you make simply a simple calculation that for the 5 people you get there fully equipped with everything you need to run your business, is at another end a lot more money to invest month by month. Yeah. And then we come to the point, is it still affordable? For the last 4 minutes, let's have a little bit on the suggestion from Thomas. The pricing perspective could be, aside of the usability, a very convincing part to decide for a solution which might not give you at the first hand the usability resemblance you are used for 30 years, but on the simple perspective, I can't afford to pay more, then it gets your friend. Yeah. And you get used to it, because if you use it for 10 years, trust me, you find your buttons.
Well, they do say beggars can't be choosers.
Oh, that's an interesting phrase.
Yeah.
I have to remember that.
Yeah. If you are limited in budget, sure, you can't get the Rolls-Royce of software, but you still want something that is functional for you. It's out there. It can be found, but I do agree with you. Money matters. If you can't afford it, don't worry about what you can't afford.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to see that a lot of universities and smaller organizations which might not get sponsored massively using the free of charge tools, and they survive. Yeah.
Yeah. This relates back to something that comes up in a number of our broadcasts, and that is, at the end of the day, if you're willing to put in the work, most business software will do the job you need it to. You might not like it as much as another one. There may be particular things missing from it that you would prefer to have. But at this point, if it is a known and reputable piece of software, it will do more or less what you need it to. And then you can customize it from there, probably with low-code, no-code development solutions.
Yeah.
See, we started with that. Now we're ending with it.
So our call to action to our audience is, let us know your thoughts, how you survive in the day-to-day jungle, how you do create with your solutions, your customer experience, and the employee service and customer experience, which is taking us forward to deliver more benefits. Stay tuned for some of our next episodes when we are going digging more into what can money do for innovation, or how much do I have to pay for innovative products to get a cool and satisfying customer experience. We are grateful that you have participated. We are grateful that Thomas, as our key audience, was so helpful to throw in one of the other thoughts. And we look forward to the next episode when you have again 2 hosts and a guest, as I will be on the bicycle. And trust me, the internet connection on my e-bike is worse than the one Thomas had in his family's place. With that, I would like to say goodbye to you and take care, keep healthy, and be loyal to us.
Right. Be loyal to us. Or, you know what? Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. We want to hear from you.
Thank you, Marshall. That was a cool one. And one famous last statement. Ach, ja, Thomas. Alles klar. Okay. End of show. Bye.
Tschüss.